So let's jump in and do our first pass of the board. Now I've already done a little prep work. You saw before how we imported the script and roughly broke it into scenes and shots. And as I mentioned before, I actually did my thumbnails and shot breakdown on paper. I tweaked the project to match what I did in the thumbnails. I had to add a few shots here and there. And then in SketchUp, I went through and exported images of the background to go into the board. I don't need a background for all the shots, just the ones where the perspective and the character relationships might be tricky to get right. I'm also exporting versions with and without the character stand-ins. I can temporarily use the ones with the stand-ins to help me get the character sizes right. When I import the backgrounds into Storyboard Pro, I'm actually going to use the black and white vectorization option, because that will actually remove the white and just give me the lines from the backgrounds. That way it'll be easier to put some tone behind them when we get to that point. So now I'm into the drawing. I use a rough blue brush to do an underdrawing, and then I use a clean line brush to go over in black. I'm using a vector brush, but with the Sketch Pencil texture settings. It looks a little more like a pencil, but since it's still vector, I can use the Generate Automap feature, which is a huge time saver. Especially when I'm working with these backgrounds and basically need to fill in the characters on every shot. Here's the special tool preset I made for drawing grids. It's already a lighter gray, and it draws on its own layer, but sometimes I lower the opacity of that layer if I feel like it's competing with the rest of the drawing. Now, obviously there are supposed to be spectators in these stands, but I've been ignoring that for now. Drawing in a mass of people over top of these stands wouldn't really affect the composition, so I'll worry about that in another pass. Sometimes I use a perspective guide to draw the grid. But that's usually only in a case where I have both a ceiling and a ground plane and I want them to match up. Otherwise, I just eyeball it. Here's a tip when you're drawing. If you hold Shift, it lets you make straight lines, which is perfect for a case like this door here. Here you can see I'm letting elements that aren't meant to be the focus of the shot or that have been already well established be really loose. If anything, I could probably get away with being a lot looser for most of these drawings. When I get to these shots of Master Renshu, I'm going to indicate the spectators there, because they do affect the composition when we get this close. Then I'll use the special arrow preset I made for drawing in the motion arrows. It's nice to keep these separate because they're good for the board, but when I get to the animatic, I'm actually going to take them off. So that's it for the first drawing pass. I didn't put in any shading or background tones in this pass. I'll do that in a polish pass later. First, we want to go through a revision step before we do all that work. Now, you also might have noticed that I didn't indicate any camera movements either. That's because Storyboard Pro has a great system for doing that without the need to draw them in by hand. Normally, I probably would have put the camera moves in as I went as part of this pass, but I wanted to save that to go over with you on its own. So let's take a look at the camera controls in the next video. I'll see you there.